So welcome everyone. It's good to see you today. Today's topic is introspection. When we say the word introspection, what do we mean by that? Very often, if I would just tell you, do some introspection right now, what would you do? How would you direct your awareness, your attention? What would you do with your mind? If your task was just go back home and do 15 minutes of introspection, what would you do? How would you direct your attention? You say at yourself, what does that really mean? If you look within, what do you find when you look within? We often use these words without really contemplating any further, without actually understanding properly what we say or what we think. Same probably for the word meditation, mindfulness, awareness, consciousness, attention, kindness, love. We say a lot of words day in, day out, but it appears almost as if the understanding, the direct, immediate understanding of this word isn't really there. We often think we know what we mean by that, but it becomes quickly evident when we sit down for 15 minutes and try to do some introspection and actually question ourselves. What on earth am I doing here? I'm doing introspection. I'm looking within. Okay. So basically introspection is, you can define it as looking within. So then begs the question, what is it that looks within? And what is it that's within? What do we find within? And then of course also, what's outside? Well, normally our attention is directed to the outside world. Right? What does that mean? Well, it's directed to sight, to vision, to sound, to smell, to taste, to touch. And when we say looking within, very often then our attention is directed to thought, isn't it? We do introspection, usually people think. They start to think a lot. I'm sitting there, I'm contemplating a certain topic that usually we could then say, oh, he's doing some introspection, he's thinking about a certain topic. Like he's thinking about the difference between love and kindness. So here I sit and I do introspection around this topic. I'm reflecting on love and kindness. Are there differences? Are there no differences? Is there a common ground? So we might refer to that kind of introspection, meaning like sitting and pondering something. Or we could also mean looking at what goes on within. For example, being aware that the mind ponders. So you're looking at the pondering mind. Or you are looking at your thoughts. Or you're looking at your emotions. Because apparently those are things that are happening within, right? Well, let me ask you a question. Is there anything that does not happen within? If you ask yourself, where are you experiencing sound? Where does the experience of sound take place? Here, this is not something that I would like you to think about. I would like you to look at that. At the moment, where are you hearing my voice? Where does the hearing exactly take place? Where would you direct your attention? If I say, well, have a look at this remote control, or have a look at the water bottle, then it's very easy where you're directing your attention. You really know directly, okay, direct it right here. But if I say, direct your attention to the place where you are experiencing sound, what do you do? Where does the attention go? Where do you experience vision? Where do you experience feelings? These are all things that are very relevant. We're experiencing all of that. But where do we experience it? Where is the experience taking place? It's a valid question. We can ask ourselves these kind of questions, and that leads the mind into a different direction. So it's not just looking at sounds and kind of being a bit lost in them. It's not just looking at things around us, getting lost in them, but it is looking at the actual experience of them. When you close your eyes, the experience of vision changes. Right? Where does that change take place? Is it in the brain? Is it in the eyeball? Is it the eye that's seeing? Is it the brain that's seeing? All quite interesting questions. I don't necessarily have an answer for them, but I encourage introspection here. I encourage to direct your awareness, your ability to experience yourself, and investigate a little bit. See what's happening when I hear? What's happening when I taste? And of course, we can only ever do that if we're mindful. If our mind is totally dispersed and lost in things, we can't do these kind of things. Yes, you can't taste your food if your mind is somewhere else. This is, by the way, one of the most fundamental problems. Why people are unhappy in general, it's because their minds are just constantly dispersed. They're not. You say in Thai, quite a nice expression, "Man yu kap nua kap tua," it stays with the body. You're here, right here. You're in the flesh. You're right here in the body with your mind. But our mind usually just wanders, it just goes around. So even though your flesh, your body is right here, the mind is elsewhere, right? That is why you're stressed. There's no other reason. That's why people are stressed. Because the mind is constantly pulled around by various things. For example, thoughts or sights or sounds. Everything is asking for your attention. Everything is asking you to get involved. So that's a whole lot of things. And there's so many things that are specifically designed for you to get lost in. You all know what I'm talking about. If you drive along the roadside, there are signs catching your attention. Even goes on in your subconscious. Just stuff grabbing your attention, pulling it. So the mind is usually dispersed, quote unquote, on the outside. But the experiences, whatever you are experiencing right now, is taking place in consciousness. This is taking place, you can say, neither on the inside or the outside. It's taking place in consciousness. But consciousness doesn't necessarily have to be inside or outside anywhere. It is just a field of experience. So in meditation you sit there and you look at what arises in consciousness. What kind of experience is arising right now in consciousness? Is it thinking? Are there thoughts passing through? Are there feelings, emotional states passing through? Now if you're looking at these things, then ask yourself, who's looking at them? What is it that's aware of your feelings? Is there something that's aware of your feelings? What do you think? Yes? No? There must be, right? Otherwise, how would you know that you have feelings? If you say, I'm so sad, how do you know? How do you know that you're sad? What is it that tells you that you're sad? There must be some sort of awareness or consciousness. There must be a knowing quality that knows what's going on inside of you or outside of you. Otherwise, if the sadness wouldn't appear to anything, it wouldn't exist. For sadness or anger or whatever to exist, it must appear to something. If it doesn't appear to anything, it is non-existent. So the existence of whatever you are experiencing is dependent on the experiencer. There's this kind of dependency. No experiencer, no experiencing. And that's an interesting thing. This is not specifically philosophical here. You can actually just do that right now. You can look within. You can turn your eyes at your own mind, at yourself, looking at yourself, and see what happens. And many things will happen. There will be feelings, emotions, stress, tension, relaxation, happiness, joy, bliss even, sadness, anxiety, worry, impatience, frustration, you name it. It's all there for all of us. We're all hosting, you can say, an entirety of feeling, both dark side feelings and bright side feelings. And ego is kind of like the lid on the pot, the pressure pot. It tries to keep it all together. That's why we suffer a lot, because we're trying to constantly keep it all together. And that's a lot of stuff that we need to keep together. Inside there, not even mentioning around you, your life. But inside of yourself, there's a whole lot of things you need to keep together. You need to keep functioning, you need to be happy all the time, there's a whole lot of demands, pressure. And ego, as it grows up, gets better at that. If you see a little child, the ego is not yet so developed. They're just living out anything that comes to their mind. They want to pretend to be Superman, they just do it. They don't ask for permission, they don't wonder if it's polite or not. They just jump around. If they want the chips in the supermarket and you're not giving it to them, they throw a tantrum, and they don't even worry how they look like while throwing a tantrum. They just do it. And later, as you grow up, your ego becomes a bit more refined. It becomes more socially acceptable. But imagine we all would still act like 3-year-olds in grown-up bodies. What a world would that be? It would be probably a very funny world to look from the outside.
Fantastic.
Yeah, who knows? It would certainly be funny. But there's already some big me going on actually, but in just different areas. This is my toy. Big drama around it. So in some ways an adult is not really more refined. It's kind of like just more compressed or kind of hidden. But these tantrums and all that kind of stuff, we all still have it. And it takes like just little specific triggers, and suddenly you're not an adult anymore, but you're a sobbing heap. Or totally lost in some huge drama that goes on in our heads, doesn't allow us to sleep anymore. And small things, sometimes even just something that someone says, and boop, your whole mind changes completely. Your emotional state totally changes like this. And then we need to control it, because on the outside then we need to look still like we've got it all together. I'm still happy, I'm still functioning, everything's good. How are you doing? Yeah, I'm great. But inside, not at all actually, I'm not great. Pretty unhappy. And then being confronted with a whole lot of news every day that are quite upsetting. Now we receive all the world news. You know when there was an earthquake over there, you know when there was a tsunami over there, how many people died today and yesterday, and all these informations constantly coming in. It's difficult to keep it all together. Not easy. So many people silently kind of break apart, looking at a world that is quite difficult to handle if you look at it through the filter of the news maybe every day. Or looking at your own life and how you are in control of your emotions, or your thoughts even, or your actions. Maybe being stuck in a job that you don't like, but still feeling you have to do it. Maybe being stuck in a relationship you don't like, still feeling like I have to push on. Many, many examples. The way we put pressure onto ourselves, trying to keep it all together constantly. And so when you do introspection, you look at all that. You learn to give space to the things that you absolutely don't like about yourself. That is difficult, and it is hard work. To actually allow yourself to have those feelings that you would not allow yourself to have, that are socially taboo, that you shouldn't have those thoughts. You shouldn't even think that way. You shouldn't even feel these kind of things. You should be happy all the time, and you should function. But there I am, and I sit, and suddenly I feel like a huge amount of anger or guilt or shame about myself, what I did before in my life. It all suddenly comes up in my mind. Can I host it? Can I give myself and all my aspects space? That is true introspection. You learn to be with yourself. You learn to bear yourself. To give yourself space. To literally, actually you can say this is a process of liberating yourself. You stop trying to manipulate it so you're all having it together and everything stays as a functioning whole. But for the first time, maybe for many people, when you really open up, if you really look deep down inside of whatever there is, you're not evading it, you're not escaping yourself, you're not running away from yourself. I've mentioned that before. Many people think meditation means to avoid yourself and to avoid your responsibilities in the world. That could be the case. Some people, they do meditation to escape. It's like taking a drug. They just want to have flashy, fancy experiences for like 30 minutes and then go back to their daily life. That's okay, that's fine. But it's like kind of like taking a drug or, having some sort of addiction to sleep or to sex or whatever. And then it's the same thing. So if that's the case, then sure, that's a whole other thing. But if you're really doing an honest meditation, you really look at yourself and you're not running away, you're not avoiding it, you see there's a whole lot of things that want you to be kind to them, that want to be accepted, that want to be seen. Very often, instead of actually paying attention to those things, we push them away, right? We kind of say, no, I don't want to feel that. I would like to bliss out, and I would like to feel very nice. And there is so much distraction going on. To hell with the distraction. I don't want to be distracted, I want to be focused. That's a classic example. Can you accept your distraction? Can you be okay with it? Or do you have to be perfect, without distraction, totally enlightened? And I'm not saying surrendering to the distraction and just going with the flow and I'm just going to spend 30 minutes being totally distracted. Distraction is my new best friend. It's not like that either. So you're not subscribing to it, but you're also not fighting against it. That's what awareness does. That's real introspection. So you see, there's distraction. And there is anger about distraction. Let's have a look at it. See what's going on. And as you look deeply, magic happens. Sasha, what have you observed if you look deeply at anger or any unpleasant emotion?
It falls away.
It falls away, exactly. It falls away, and that's magical if you really stay and look often. You notice that even though the emotion comes and goes, and here is the learning, I am not coming and going with it. So gradually, a gap becomes visible. There must be something that stays, that's here, that even though the emotion passes through it, it isn't affected by the emotion. And it still allows the emotion even to pass through it. So that's kind of the first inkling of there being a greater dimension to you than just an emotional life and a life of thoughts. Now this is the first time the spiritual dimension is revealed to you. I call it the spiritual dimension. The knowing quality, awareness, consciousness, whatever, many words. Spirit. The fact that there is something that is grand enough to allow for everything to be there and yet remains totally at peace. And that's pretty amazing, and we all have that. We all have this dimension to ourselves. That is a true refuge. Your emotions are not. Feeling happy is not a refuge because feeling happy doesn't last. If you're getting attached to feeling happy, guess what will happen? Disappointment will happen. Because happiness doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Think of anything that makes you happy. Anything. Anything you like. Now imagine I would give you the experience. I snap my finger and you have the happy experience right now. And now I snap my left finger and it won't stop for the rest of your life. Should I snap?
No.
No. Why not? It's happy, right? Or is it not? No, it's not. Of course not. It's just changing. Or you feel very hot. You're yearning for a swimming pool. You're in the swimming pool, you're slowly getting a bit more cold. You're yearning for the beach again. You want to get out back into the sun. You're in the sun, you want to go back into the water. Etc., etc. This is life, right? Life is just these changes all the time. There is no reliable refuge anywhere to be found. You can't hold on to anything in a reliable way. Neither relationships, no work, no money, no health, nothing. Life even, you can't hold it. But there is something. And it's so close, we miss it all the time. It's that knowing quality. And here's kind of the introduction to that knowing quality. It is, if you are observing your thoughts come and go, ask yourself, are you coming and going with them? Simple question to ask yourself. It's a silent question, of course. But you're looking inside and you see very clearly. And not just random thoughts, but thoughts that really matter to you, thoughts that you really believe in. Those heavy thoughts, like I'm a failure, I can never do it, or oh, I'm so bad at meditation, or whatever, you name it. Your famous kind of big thoughts. Nobody likes me. These beliefs that we have. Can you even see that this comes and goes and leaves you unaffected, essentially? It leaves you unaffected. So the Tibetans always say this example, like the cloud and the sky. The cloud leaves the sky unaffected. It simply passes through. The sky has no business with the clouds. In the same way, awareness has no business with its content. Whatever arises and appears in awareness, whatever arises and appears to the knowing quality, it doesn't disturb it. So that is an experience of being utterly undisturbed. And that gradually reveals itself. For some people suddenly, in great depth, but mostly it's a gradual revelation. You gradually get to see more and more that, oh wow, there's something inside of me that is totally undisturbed, no matter what happens. The more you see it, the more you feel empowered by it, the more you want to put it to the test. Am I really undisturbed? Am I really remaining at ease? Am I really centered? So in this process, your introspection gradually deepens more and more and more until you finally figure out that what is looking within starts to look at itself and finds nothing. So I said it again, the pinnacle of looking within is when the one looking within encounters no more objects to look but itself. You are looking at yourself. The looker looks at the looker. And also that is a gradual revelation. And slowly, slowly you become more and more aware that there is a looking quality, and you look at that. That is a collapse. Always there. Everything that has been an object to that point simply dissolves. Whatever there is stress or whatever, it dissipates. So to just leave you with a little thing that you can take home with you, next time you're having negative thoughts, ask yourself, who is it that sees those negative thoughts? Is there something that can observe them? There's a different dimension to you. It's deeper than those thoughts. And then let those thoughts be there so you can see them arise and pass. You don't have to deal with them. You can see very clearly they come and they go all by themselves. It's amazing. The same time you see they're totally not personal. There's nothing personal to them. They're just thoughts. They're not out there to get you. They're just thoughts.
In and out.
In and out.
The movement.
Yes. Yes.
Colors in the area all around it comes up, and then when you come back from the main room, you are understanding everything. It just becomes gray.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you focus that one becomes green or
And also, again, these things pass. Whatever appears, look deeply into it. Not latching onto anything. Always asking yourself, well, who is seeing that? What is seeing that? There's something aware of that? What is that? That is introspection. Find the aware quality within. Recognize it. Again and again, deeper, deeper, deeper. Concentrate on it. Make it your center. Abide in it as much as you can. Until everything else becomes really secondary. It doesn't matter anymore. So this it gives you the ability to live your life in a light-hearted way. Playfully, at ease. Not heavy and serious because of thoughts, which is ridiculous. We're making ourselves so heavy with our thoughts. It's incredible, and nobody forces us to. We just do it to ourselves. Nobody forces you to suffer silently in your bed in the middle of the night. You could sleep and relax and enjoy, and you have a beautiful bed to relax in. It's nice. Nobody forces you to think of the world's problems while you're having a nice dinner. We're doing all that to ourselves. Recognizing that is the first step. Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing right now? I could also just have dinner. It tastes really good. Then be with the taste. First step, just establish mindfulness in the present moment and keep it there. Okay? So that's all that comes to mind for tonight. Are there any questions?